Welcome back to another episode of Bill Hanna Baking. Today I'm going to show you how to make a moist and delicious red velvet cake. The ingredients that I actually read aloud will give you 2 9-inch round cake pans worth of batter. I'm going to be making double that because I'm making a few cakes, but just to give you a heads up that what you see is not going to match what I'm saying out loud. So let's get started. You're going to need 2 cups of all-purpose flour, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, 1 teaspoon of salt, 2 tablespoons of unsweetened cocoa powder, 2 cups of sugar, 1 cup vegetable oil, 2 eggs, 1 cup of buttermilk, 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract, 1 to 2 ounces of red food coloring, more or less depending on how deep you want the color. Mind you, the one I used wasn't the greatest, so always use tools that make your life a little bit easier. You also need half a cup of plain hot coffee and 1 teaspoon of white distilled vinegar. I like to add chocolate chips to my cake, so you'll see me add chocolate chips to mine as well. Let's preheat your oven to 325 degrees Fahrenheit. Then we're going to prep our cake pans. To prep our cake pans, you're going to butter them, ideally with colder butter. The harder the butter, the better it is to do this part. But you're going to butter all the way up the sides of the cake pans, and then you're going to flour the cake pans. You want to get really good coverage, but you don't want too much flour in there, so just kind of tap it out. Then in a larger bowl, you're going to combine the sugar and the vegetable oil. In a medium bowl, you're going to whisk together the flour, baking soda, baking powder, cocoa powder, and the salt. Then you're going to mix in the eggs, the buttermilk, the vanilla, and the red food coloring until combined. Make sure to make a giant mess. I think I'm going to switch to stirring this by hand just to be able to control the speed a little bit better. You're going to stir in vanilla, coffee, and the vinegar together. Finally, you're going to bring these 2 mixtures together, add the dry ingredients to the wet ingredients a little bit at a time, just until they're thoroughly combined. Once that's done, make sure you evenly spread out the batter into the 2 pans. Put it in the preheated oven. You're going to aim for about 30 minutes. You really don't want to overbake cake because it starts to get dry. So you're going to start monitoring this at around the 25-minute mark. You're going to check on the cake by sticking in a toothpick and making sure there's nothing on the toothpick. But again, you don't want to go over, so once there's nothing on the toothpick, it's done. Once you take them out of the oven, put them on a cooling rack. I don't try to take them out of the pan right away because once they're warm, they're really fragile. So let it cool down before you try to take them out of the pan. You'll see one of my cakes sunk in a little bit. I actually think that was because I had a high concentration of my chocolate chips in the middle. There was a lot less batter and a lot more chocolate, and it didn't get to that spot right. But that's okay, that's just more chocolate for us. Now that the cakes are out of the pans and cooled, we're going to move on to our cream cheese frosting. You're going to need half a cup of unsalted butter that's softened, 8 ounces or 1 cup of cream cheese, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and 4 cups or 500 grams of powdered sugar. Just mix together until smooth and creamy. By now your cake's probably cooled and it's time to separate them from the pans. And then to get it started, you can run a knife around the edge of the pan just to kind of loosen up the cake from the pan. For me, I'm going to be making a 3-layer cake. To get started on the decorations, you're going to create a platform that the cake is going to sit on. I just wrapped cardboard in tin foil. To To start building the cake, put down a layer of frosting. Once your cake is assembled and has frosting between each layer, you're going to make what's called a crumb layer. A crumb layer is basically a layer of frosting that locks in the crumbs of the cake. After that layer, you're going to make another layer on top of it that's going to look more aesthetically pleasing. Your goal while doing this layer is to just cover the cake so that there's no crumbs or cake exposed. Once your crumb layer is done, just put it in the fridge for it to set, usually about 30 to 60 minutes. For the pretty frosting or layer, you want it to be a little bit more warm. That'll help you work with it a lot better on the cake. I'm not saying warm it up, I'm saying keep it room temperature. Guys, I struggle with making a cake as beautiful as I see online. I'm not artistically inclined, so I work with what I got and I make cakes look as good as I can make them. Simplicity is the key for me. It's going to be a delicious cake either way, so don't stress yourself out over it. To make the final pretty layer, you basically need something with a flat edge. They have cake spatulas that are really long and flat, and you can use those to get really nice lines. But ultimately, even something like a spatula, a regular spatula will work. And that's it. If you followed along, you just made a deliciously moist red velvet cake with a lovely cream cheese frosting. I plan to keep uploading weekly videos for about 10 weeks, so please subscribe, like, and comment below to tell me what you want me to make next. See you when I see ya!